Dice Circus is back with season 2 starting this Sunday. And in case you didn't get a chance to watch season 1, here's a little recap to get you caught up. It all began at the circus. But not like a normal circus, kind of like a sick and twisted, creepy, necrotic circus that looked perfectly normal from the outside. The party members Lemon, Maeve, and Elwyn arrived. They got funnel cakes, they played circus games, and everyone was having a great time. Until they ran into a couple of circus performers named Pip and Pop, which turned out to be conjoined twins. But the thing was, one of those twins was actually undead. Gross. But after that, the circus carried on, and one thing led to another, which led to another, which then led to the party getting tricked into entering a basement following some glowing lights, and then poof, they woke up in a field with no memories of who or where they were. So, with no memories, they did what any good party would do. They went to the tavern. On the way there, they met a little dragon boy named Gordon who tried to rob them blind, but also happened to know where the tavern was. Once they got there, they ordered some drinks, and then very quickly were attacked by a doppelganger who looked just like Maeve. So that's fun. But the party was successful in offing the evil Maeve without causing any significant lasting damage to the real Maeve. Also, right after that, little Gordon apparently has some weird magic and was able to, pull a dragon out of Maeve's bleeding neck. So she has a dragon now. That's cool. It's a baby. Its name is Mushroom. We love. And then after all of that, arrived Miss Jolene Brashmont, who Maeve took a liking to very quickly. Almost too quickly. At this point, the party was ready to go to sleep. But then, 3 very hot but very angry ladies appeared, trying to kill Jolene. Also, one of them didn't have a tongue. Actually, speaking of tongues, on the way to the tavern, the party did let some criminals that were escaping continue to escape because one guy had a snake tongue and Lemon was into that. But that's not important right now. So, back to the tavern. So the second battle of the tavern continues on, with the party being successful in unaliving one of the 3, Delthea, who kind of seemed to be the ringleader. And then after Delthea was cooked, Aaron and Orla booked it out of there pretty quickly, with the help of a command spell, which left the party with Jolene in a body. Also, one of Delthea's hands had been cut off, and Lemon did confiscate that. Lemon's into weird things. That's important to know. After that, the party was finally ready to get some sleep, which meant we were heading back to Jolene's place. But before we got there, we got a summons to what could be described as like the local magic school. Basically, we found out that magic is illegal in the town of Goldspire, which we had no knowledge of when entering, because remember, we lost our memories. We did eventually get them back, but we had already done magic before then. And also, there are no signs that say magic is illegal. The only sign that says it is in the middle of the town. Seems like a setup. And considering that we definitely did some magic, we were basically summoned to our doom. Really wild first day. The next morning we had breakfast, went out and did some shopping, and headed off to the bureau. Pretty unprepared though, if I'm being honest. Once we got there, we learned there are trials held by the bureau, where only the victors, which is literally the only people that survive these trials, are allowed to then get a license to practice magic. Really flawed system there. Not a great place, Goldspire. Lot of money, lot of bad people. They also had a hospital made of gold. So unnecessary. But the party had already entered the bureau, which meant they could not leave. So the next best thing would be finding some more allies. Along the way, they picked themselves up a sea elf named Rowan and a tiefling named Vixie. After that, they went into an allocation ceremony, where the party was unfortunately split into different houses, one of which was known for winning the trials more often and given more benefits. The other that never wins and was not given the same benefits as the others. But luckily, shortly after the allocation ceremony, the famed headmaster, Silas Sleep, returned from being gone for the last few years. Learning of how the trials had evolved to a survival rate of less than 1%, Silas quickly shut them down, temporarily. Even though the trials were temporarily canceled, the party was still not free to leave. So instead, They took some classes. Kind of. Really, somehow Lemon was the only one who took a class, specifically a potions class, because they were trying to, let's say, recover some different items that a student had stashed away in a secret cove that could only be accessed through the closet in that room. You get what I'm saying? And while Lemon was taking that class, the rest of the party was out in the courtyard, showing off their muscles. This is also when Maeve and Jolene finally had their first kiss and made it official. But also on that same day, we found out that Jolene has a wife. What? And she may or may not be alive. But we'll get to more on that later. After the kissing in the quad, the rest of the party joined up with Lemon in the potions class, where they headed through the closet door and completely forgot about the map they had and how to get to where they needed to go, and ended up plummeting to presumably their death. Luckily, Rowan pulled out a bubble and helped the party gently descend into the giant hand of a young, childlike ogre creature who was wearing a diaper. This creature being there was sad, but also he was too big to fit into any of the hallways, and it seemed like a problem for next time, because in this moment, there was a chance to escape the Bureau. The ultimate plan is to return and take down the Bureau, because even though the trials are temporarily paused, there's a very good chance they will come back. But with the party out of the grasp of the Bureau, they headed forward towards the docks, and they made a plan with Jolene to find her wife, Daisy, or at least what remains of her. She suspected she may be at the island of Blissful End. Blissful End is a very dangerous place. It lies directly atop the split of Valendor. Little history on Valendor. In the past, Valendor only had one moon. It used to grant eternal life to all those beneath it. But many years ago, a cataclysm occurred that split the moon in two, releasing the red moon that now resides over the eastern lands, and rains blood down upon it. With that split also came the loss of the eternal life that was granted and the prosperity that the moon bestowed. Luckily, the western lands were able to recover fairly quickly, but the same cannot be said for the eastern lands, that still have the blood rain that destroys their crops and makes it very hard to live a comfortable life in the eastern lands, which has then led to animosity between the two sides. For many, many years, there have been wars, a lot going on there, but in present day, it is illegal to travel from the east to the west and the west to the east, which makes getting to Blissful End both very dangerous and very complicated, unless you meet a very specific merchant and also a man who is a lobster. But don't worry about him. We'll talk about him on Sunday. With a very specific ship. A ship that the party was lucky enough to negotiate passage on during a very sexy spa trip. And that's pretty much where we left off. So when we return on Sunday, we will be aboard a ship headed towards the Blissful End and all the horrors that await.